kind of like, what does grace wanna say? How would it like to be shared? Not what I would like to say or even what you all would like to hear. Because that's the way it works, isn't it? That grace comes the way that it wants to, that we're not in control of grace. And so that sometimes can make us feel like it's not here too, because it's not something that we can control and possess and manipulate. Because if we're grasping at it, it's going to recede and get very, very quiet. Not that it isn't there, because it's evident everywhere. But it's going to get very, very quiet until we stop trying, as if it belongs to us to control and make our lives work. And I think that's a very good thing, that it's something that we can't master. And that means that it lies beyond our ego. And it's made of love. Even when it looks very fierce, and that is one of the hardest things to learn and to open to, that truth, that fierce grace, as Ram Dass puts it, that fierce grace is actually fierce love. And it loves us so much that it gives us what we need. You've heard this saying before. We get what we need, not necessarily the way we want it. And that's fierce grace. And I'm not saying this is easy. It's teaching. Hmm. So grace isn't only the beautiful moments where we feel surrounded and cradled by love and beauty and the softness of the divine, feeling held and nurtured and supported. Or when we see it in a beautiful setting in nature, or see the innocence of animals and babies and so on, children. It's also in the nitty gritty. It lies everywhere. And if we were to be stripped of our interpretation of what it is that we're encountering, we're seeing, and our resistance to it, and our which is natural, I understand. But we may see, if we were stripped of that interpretive layer, we may see something much more real and whole. And I know that this topic is a difficult one for many people, because it comes down to, why is the world the way it is? Why is my life the way it is? Um, you know, the body, if we're suffering, why is it the way it is? It's really hard to drop this any kind of stories we have of how it's got to be wrong and it's got to mean that there is no God or no grace. It's a very mature seeing, and the inquiry into it pushes us to go much deeper, and to look and maybe ask yourself some questions like, what were the times of my biggest growth leaps? You know, maybe when we're in the midst of it, it's really hard to get this because the challenge can be so great that it's just plain hard. Sometimes we can get an inkling, you know, even in the midst of hardship, like, damn, this is hard, but I know there are so many gems and jewels here that are just part of that crack, that crack that's being made and my heart being broken open. For one thing, we become, for the most part, often very present. We may not like the experience, but we're very much present to it. That's one gem. It may wear us down to the point of where we see resistance as futile. If that happens, that's a very big gem. Do you all know what I'm talking about? Yeah, just being worn down and being worn down. And the great masters that we admire, they haven't had all easy lives, and they're just like us in terms of like they had to be worn down too in certain ways where they stopped resisting, you know, the moment. Really helps to have a sense and to develop a relationship with something that is bigger than yourself, to open to grace and to what grace is. Eventually, we do come to know that we are that which we are opening to. But in the beginning, something bigger than yourself, something that we can open to and relax and let go into. And earlier I said that it's good that we can't manipulate grace, because if we could, we wouldn't be growing the way that we're meant to and evolving the way we're meant to, because we would be stopping a process before it's completed, because it hurts. Let's say the process hurts. I think life hurts off and on. It just does. Like the Buddha said, life is suffering. And if we stop seeing that as a mistake and instead begin to open to the possibility that life knows what it's doing, we can get more out of the way and let it do its work, because it knows much better than we do what we need as a soul, as an aspect of God. Don't you think God knows what it needs best? And we are that.